Why is no one talking about this at all? To me, this is going to be one of the biggest game changers in Season 4. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there is a lot changing, but this one tip that I have for you guys pulls everything together and is not even in the spotlight. Welcome to the Gaming Legion. I'm your host, Cliptus, and I have some great tips for you today to get you ahead of the competition at the start of Season 4. Okay, the first tip, and this might seem a little silly, but before we get into the good stuff, I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun. Drop any preconceived notions that you have about this game and just enjoy it. The changes are insanely good. Diablo 4 is a lot of fun. It's why we're here, to enjoy the game we love. Tip number 2, gear changes. This is actually going to play a really big role in the next tip that I have for you. With the launch of Season 4, everything that you know about gear is changing. Definitely for the better. Affixes on the legendary gear is going from 4 to 3, and on the rare gear, from 4 all the way down to 2. I know that we're all gonna miss this. But take some screenshots for the scrapbook before it's gone. Because the amount of gear that drops is being reduced. So that means 2 things for you. 1, you'll have to be a lot more selective on the gear that you choose, because we won't have those hordes of loot in our inventory to go through. And 2, it's also going to change how you look at gear. As you're leveling, and once your character is able to start getting legendary gear, the rare gear is going to be useless. Except for one thing, but we'll talk about that later. One guaranteed way to get legendary gear is through a loot goblin. So if you see it on the map, don't run past it, go kill it, grab your legendaries. There are a couple more really awesome ways in the new season that we're going to be able to get legendary gear at a really low level, but those are for later because those are going to be in even bigger tips than what we're talking about right now. Let's circle back to those useless pieces of rare gear that we were talking about. They may be useless to you in equipping, but they're not useless for materials. Take all of them to the blacksmith, salvage them all. Don't sell them, don't leave them on the ground. Pick them up, salvage them, because they're going to give you veiled crystals per salvage. That is a very important material because the amount of veiled crystals needed may be incredibly high in this upcoming patch. It may change. All of this is subject to change just a little bit. So just to repeat myself, just in case, salvage your rare gear. Pick it all up, bring it, and salvage it. It's going to be very important. And a last little teaser for later on, legendary gear and uniques are now tradable. Tip number 3, crafting. 2 new systems are being introduced to Diablo 4 in Season 4, tempering and masterworking. This is really where you're going to lock in how you want your build to run. I know it sounded scary when I talked about losing all those affixes on all your gear, but through the tempering system, you're now going to be able to add in those affixes again, and you get an additional one. So we're actually going to end up with 5 affixes instead of 4. This is where it adds a really unique flair to your gear and your setup. We also talked about being very particular about what pieces of gear you choose. Tempering, however, is permanent. Once you've added in those affixes, it cannot be undone. So make sure you have a clear direction of how you want that build to go, especially if you have a great item. Masterworking is your new upgrading at the blacksmith. This replaces that traditional 5-star upgrade process with a whole bunch of new features. The materials for upgrading are found in the pit, and at first it feels like it's a little bit slow and you should probably wait on upgrading, but don't worry. The further you get into the pit, the more gear drops. So really the biggest tip I have for you about masterworking is just upgrade. By the time I had gotten through the beginning stages of the pit, I had more materials than I needed to upgrade the gear that I had. The more I upgraded the gear, the less squishy I felt, so it was definitely worth just upgrading my gear. As you upgrade the gear, every affix gets increased by 5%. At level 4, you get a 25% increase to 1 stat. The best thing that I found to do with this, I have a piece of gear with a stat that I really like that I need more than anything else. So let's say something like ultimate skill cooldown. When you hit level 4, you check your piece of gear after you've upgraded. If you gained 25% to that skill, you keep upgrading. If you don't, there's this little button right here that you click and it'll reset your masterworking. Then you can use the materials to just upgrade again and see if you get that increase at level 4. You can do this at level 8 and at level 12, but that's also a whole lot of luck that's going to go into upgrading your piece of gear. But this is where the gear gets really, really unique to your build, because no two pieces of gear are going to look the same from person to person. So if you're feeling lucky, get out there, reset your masterworking, get that 25% increase at your 4, 8, and 12 levels, and hopefully you end up with the best piece of gear you possibly can have. If you're really curious about how these new systems work, I have a full in-depth guide right here that you can check out. Here it is, the one we've been waiting for, the one that nobody's talking about, the one that I personally think is going to be the most impactful to everybody. Tip number 4 is join a clan. It seems simple, and the game tells you to do it, so obviously why would you not? In this season, it's going to be the most significant out of any other season. And here's why. Leveling itself is going to change, and that's what we're going to talk about next. I know there are a lot of people out there that love to run the game solo, and I completely understand that. However, the game is a lot more fun when you have other people playing with you. I've heard it from a lot of people. They came into the game solo, they ran solo for a while, and they quickly realized when you join up with people, the game changes. It takes on a whole new evolution. So I highly suggest that you give it a shot. In tip number 2, I mentioned that uniques and legendaries can now be traded. Well, what better place than having an active clan of 150 members to get legendaries and uniques that you need for your character. It's a great way to work as a team so that everybody gets the gear that they want. Here's an example. Johnny the Necromancer wants to do Barshan. He wants his Ring of Sacrilegious. So he puts together a group. They all agree that they're each going to pitch in 4 runs. At the end of all of those runs, he's got 3 Rings of Sacrilegious. 2 of them are really good. One of them he salvages, but the other one, instead of having to store it in his stash or just salvage it, even though it's a really good ring, you can now reach out to your clan members and see if anybody, maybe Bobby over here, who's got a Necromancer too that he just started, needs a great Ring of Sacrilegious, and you can trade it to him. This is going to build bonds. It's going to create a great environment, a good community. This is really what we needed, and this is why having a clan is going to be so important in this next season. Now, the Diablo 4 clan management system as a whole for all of the player base is not very good. When you click on the Join Clan button, it either shows you all of the clans that are full and can't accept any applications, or the clans that have 1 or 2 people in it. There's a ways around this though. You can use the Discord icon in the description of this video, join my clan's Discord, and then you can apply there. We're always recruiting, and even if there's not a spot at the moment, there's always the opportunity to get in on events and join us for leveling. The second option is the official Diablo Discord. I see a lot of clans recruiting there, so there's a really, really great opportunity to branch out. Maybe you'll find a clan with similar interests that you have, or maybe it's a different language that you speak or something, but it is a great resource to head over there, check it out, and see what they have to offer. If Discord's not your thing though, you can always use the in-game trade chat to talk to everybody in the game, or just simply use the in-game function to apply. I really hope that someone from Blizzard is watching this, and they start that movement to fix the clan system. It's a really, really, really important part of the game, and it has changed the way that the game feels for me. So I hope that we can spread that to everybody this season. On to tip number 5. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I have a little bonus for everybody after that tip, because surviving in season number 4 is going to be a lot different. Tip number 5. This is where we're going to bring all 4 of the previous tips together. Helltides. Wait, Helltides? Really? Helltides is terrible. Helltides is boring. I have avoided Helltides for the entire season 3. Why are we talking about Helltides? Because they changed it. It was so much fun on the PTR. So how does Helltides tie into the rest of it? The biggest and most important change that was made to Helltides is that's now available in tier 1 and 2. So starting the game on a new character, you can go immediately to Helltides and start getting that loot and experience you need. This season, we're going to use the clans to level in a way that we've never leveled before. Oh wait, hold on. Actually, my clan used it to level in season 3, but it just wasn't in Helltides. What we did every Wednesday night, we had Igneous Core Farming Night. We would go to the Brazier in the seasonal zone. I would invite 3 people. They would all teleport to me. They would be in my world state. Once they teleported to me, they would leave party. Then I would invite 3 more people, and they each would invite 3 more people. By the time we were done, we would have 15 to 20 people all standing around one brazier. We would all start summoning, and the amount of monsters and the amount of times that we could summon with all of those people standing around was amazing. This gets even better in Helltides this season, because that is the method that you're going to want to use. So can you see where tip number 4 plays into tip number 5? Okay, but that's all fine and dandy, but still, Why Hell Tags? Why can't we just do that in a new seasonal zone that they're going to release instead of having to spend all of this time in Hell Tags? One of the major changes that Hell Tags received is you now have a threat meter. That threat meter starts at 0, and as you kill monsters, it fills up. You can also gain threat from players nearby you killing monsters. When your threat meter fills all the way up, waves of elites start to spawn. At the end of the waves, a boss spawns. This is going to be, tying back into tip number 2, where all of your gear starts to come from. Because as your threat meter is finishing, someone else's threat meter is just filling up and starting to spawn waves of elites and then a boss. And eventually, it becomes a never-ending cycle of elites and bosses and endless gear. It is going to be absolutely insane. Now, this is all subject to change when the season gets released. However, I don't think that Blizzard is going to change it very much. People had so much fun playing it in the PTR. They may tweak it, they may change a little bit here and there, but I think this is going to be the end-all be-all. So, like I said before in tip number 4, join a clan. You're going to have access to so many people being online and active. It's going to make a world of difference in how you play, how you get gear, and how you level up. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope that you got a lot. What? Right. Sorry, we have a bonus tip. This one is actually pretty important. This one, however, doesn't just apply to Season 4. This actually will apply to even the current game as it is, that a lot of people overlook. I've helped a lot of people with this because this is something that doesn't come inherently to us as we play these games, but is something that's very, very important in Diablo 4. This is damage reduction, resistances, and armor. They play a much bigger role than we actually think they play. The reason I'm bringing this up before Season 4 is that damage reduction is going to be a lot harder to find. The devs said it in their stream. So anywhere that you get to find any sort of damage reduction, whether it's damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction from poison, damage reduction from shadow damage over time affected monsters, that one actually might be gone. Hopefully that's gone. It's going to be important to get that damage reduction anywhere. Your armor can't be overrated. Armor reduces your physical damage. So you need to make sure that any incoming damage gets mitigated by that armor. Running something like a Juggernaut aspect, you cannot go wrong with it. It just adds straight armor to your character. It's an amazing aspect. So that's the physical damage. Now what about the elemental damage? That's where resistances come into play. Resistances in tier 4 are automatically taken off at -50. So if you don't have any resistances on your Paragon board or on your gear, you're automatically going to be taking 50% more damage from those monsters. So when you get to tier 4, look for boots that have 3 to 4 affix lines of resistances, because boots is the best piece of equipment to put it on. Remember this, you can't do damage if you're dead. Cliptonians, I really hope this gave you some great insight onto your start to Season 4. I have a bunch of videos that I made from the PTR. It shows all of these new changes in action, so make sure you check it out if you're really curious to see what it looks like before you hop in.